There's this interesting Bill Gates documentary on Netflix. You haven't seen
I
that?
have not watched it. I know it exists.
Yeah. So two things. One, which is small. I notice on Netflix, because they don't have to make anything fit a certain size, that all of their original stuff that doesn't fit into the 30-minute, 1 hour slot needs an editor, because they just have extra scenes that don't contribute. That's one I've watched. A Dog's Life. We watched The Finding Neverland, and it was 6 hours and could have been 2.
Yeah.
This is probably 3 hours and could have been 1.5. In any event, it's on Bill Gates. Fascinating. One, did not realize how whip smart that dude is.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know a little bit of his story? He was being hired by legitimate companies when he was like a freshman to code the power, like the dam's power plant, because computers were brand new. And
Wow.
So his school had him, you know how class schedules, you have 500, 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
And there's all these constraints. Like you can't, there's only so many teachers that are teaching physics. So for everybody who needs physics, they do have to be in that class. But you can't have drums downstairs in the band room at the same time as symphonies upstairs, because the drums are too loud. So there's all these random constraints.
This is high school or college?
High school.
Okay.
And they were doing it by hand. And they said it used to take several people all summer of just brute forcing these schedules to get it to kind of work.
Yeah.
And so they went to Bill Gates, and with like a week or
Well,
two.
he's like 15?
Yeah. They went to him and his buddy, and with like a week or two left in summer, they just coded on these old jank computers and got it out at the final moment and wrote the schedules for everybody. So he was going to be a somebody when he was 12 years old.
He's just brilliant.
He was brilliant and retains information, and people are shocked. But of course, what's interesting about him recently is that he's been doing the philanthropy stuff. So he's focused on what was it? Sanitation was the big one. Toilets that need no energy. And he's coming at the water crisis from a different angle, which is we go, okay, water is polluted. We're going to donate to charity water. They're going to dig a well and get new clean water. And he goes, why is the water polluted? It's because people are pooping in the same place that they drink because they don't have toilets, and they just dump their feces into the river.
Oh, interesting.
What if they had toilets that... And it's fascinating. What if they had a toilet that generated energy? Because it's got methane in it, and if you burn the methane, you actually get steam power. And what if every time you took a poop, it was energy positive?
Yeah. I saw a guy speak on this, actually.
It's super fascinating. So that was one. That the other one was on disease, and he's been trying to eradicate polio, which still exists in the developing world, particularly Nigeria. And then the last one was on climate change. And he's coming at it from nuclear.
I thought he was malaria, too.
They've got billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So really, really fascinating. I could tell you more about it if you want to see it. Check it out. But so here's what happens. He's trying to eradicate polio. It's going to be $200 million. There's only like 3,000 cases of polio in the world, but getting to zero means it doesn't come back. It's like it's an endangered species and it's gone, which is huge. So they're trying to get it down. They get it down to 30 cases.
Wow.
But there's a terrorist rebellion, and they start killing vaccinators because they think that they're sterilizing the population. And so now 200 billion turns into 400 billion, million turns into 400 million, which turns into now billions of dollars to get from 30 to 50 cases a year worldwide to zero. So he's sunk billions of dollars and is like a hair's breadth away.
And this is because they're murdering the doctors because they think the doctors are coming in to make them infertile?
That's one thing. The big problem is they can't get everywhere. There's no maps of northern Nigeria. And, okay, we'll just get a map and we'll drive around, we'll figure it out. Oh, well, if you meander too long in northern Nigeria, you could be killed.
Yeah.
And they've killed vaccinators at the door, and they've done bad things. So that's happening, and he spent billions of dollars, and it's awesome. They've gotten rid of thousands of polio cases, but per polio case, it's not that cost effective at this point. And so I wanted to just pose to you, I know you don't know any of the data, but do you have any inkling over what the big problem is that you would tackle with 5 billion, 50 billion?
Well, polio seems like an interesting one because how many people were dying a year of polio before?
So it doesn't always kill people. It was literally, there were like 10,000 cases worldwide, I think, within the last 10 years. So there weren't a lot.
Interesting.
But think what he
Someone he loved as a child got polio. Is this like a Batman situation?
I think what he's saying is, how come we got rid of it completely? And these people, we have the vaccine. We've had the vaccine for over 50 years. Why is this still happening? It started. And it would be a real feather in our cap as an organization if we could say we eradicated polio. So for fundraising in the future, eradicating polio is a really big thing to be able to say that our private philanthropy did.
Got it.
So I think that's part of what drives him is if we could just get it all the way, we vindicated this organization.
Got it.
But so what would you do?
I don't know. I mean, my impression is that malaria is what kills the most people. I'd have to look into it. It's like malaria and then intestinal worms in Africa.
It's crazy.
I think are the most ravaging and cheapest to solve. So that's my initial inclination, but that's just based on one book. That's just based on effective altruism. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that made me think, and they touch on it lightly, is all of these things that he's done, with the exception of toilets. Toilets are an economic constraint. They're very expensive to get these toilets. He's building this nuclear power plant. He builds a plant that cannot melt down. The way that Chernobyl melted down, the way that Fukushima did, they had these backup generators. If this plant gets hit by an earthquake, it just sits there. The power just goes off. So there's no meltdowns. And, okay, who's going to build a nuclear power plant? Well, China's got to do it. They're the only one with the economics to build. You have to build these at scale, and they're billions of dollars. Got to do it, China. Super exciting. End of it, trade war.
Yeah.
All halted. And so there's these... Science is working, and then politics, religion, and culture just...
Yeah.
And, like, all of a sudden, we're killing vaccinators, or this happened. And so it seems like there's I don't know if you can address it, a foundational human problem, which is every time we get so close, we kind of just flub it because no one cares enough to make it a thing. So I don't know how, but it seems that the really foundational problem is that you're working against everyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone else is trying to stop you. And so I don't know what to do about it, but it was just, this trade war happens and then screw it.
Yeah.
We have more pressing short-term trade wars to win.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, the money is the bigger incentive than the nuclear power.
Yeah. And so then I ask, and I don't know the answer, and I was just been thinking through this, if in fact the problem that you're running into is that, you can get people to fundraise, but you can't get people to really care. How do you get people to care?
We've talked about this. It's documentaries. It's like trickster documentaries like that. What was the one about
Cowspiracy?
Cowspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.